Hey, what's happening? It's Bill Smith. And although the TV, your doctors, the ER, and any hospital in the United States is going to tell you that the flu is way more dangerous than the coronavirus, me, Bill Smith, I am giving you permission to officially panic. All right? So if you're not panicking already, start panicking now. Hopefully that will get you to buy some face mask respirators, some N95 face mask respirators, some dry food storage, maybe a firearm, and look for a way to get outside of any major city center if you're already there. I don't think this is going to be a problem for Caucasians because I believe, I have limited information, the same thing that most people have on the internet, but I believe that this virus specifically targets Asians and is highly lethal to Asians only. I think whites will beat it, Caucasians will. I'm not sure about blacks or Africans or Hispanics, but from what I've been able to dig up inside of genetic research that's already out there in official published papers, I think whites are less in danger than Asians are when it comes to the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus. Okay? But prepare to freak out because they just released today that it can spread by aerosol transmission, which means that all you have to do is be infected with it and breathe into a room, and the virus will stay suspended in the air indefinitely. So it drifts. So it's worse than contact, it's worse than droplets, it's worse than airborne. Aerosol is the worst possible, most virulent transmission that you can get, and that's what this virus is doing, and that's why it's going insane right now, and people are dropping dead standing up in the streets of Wuhan. It's moved on to Shanghai. It will be in every major city in China within 2 weeks. Mark my words. Now, for China, this happened at the worst possible time of the year for them. The fact that it's got a 14-day incubation rate means that any quarantine that's imposed has to restart itself 14 days after the last suspected case. So if you're one of the 7,000 or 8,000 people quarantined on those 2 cruise ships and you think you're going to get off in 14 days, I have another thing coming for you, friend. You're going to be on that cruise ship for months. You could be living in that same room 6 months from now, unable to leave that cruise ship. They're not going to let you off. So there's some people that are on these ships. This is mostly an Asian ship. I think it came out of, I don't know. It wasn't allowed to dock in Japan, though. I have to go back and look at this stuff. But they're not allowed to come off this ship. So far, 69 people have already tested positive for the virus. They're breathing recycled air on a cruise ship with a virus that is aerosol borne, which means it can just float around. So these people are going to sit in these rooms and just wait for those HEPA filters to run out. If those HEPA filters aren't working on recirculated air, recycled air, you're just breathing virus no matter where you go. It's only a matter of time before every human being who can be infected on this ship is infected. At that point, it's basically a floating coffin. So, prayers for these people. I don't know if I'm ever going to get on another one of these. So these 2 people, John and Melanie, they're among the thousands quarantined on this cruise ship. Lucky for them, though, they're white. So we're going to talk about that. So the question on everyone's mind, if you're an American, likely you're going to say, can I get this? Am I in danger? Well, like I said, if you ask anybody in the medical profession, they'll say, well, have you got your flu shot? Because that's more likely. You're more likely to die of the flu. Except for no one's ever locked down 250 million people because of the flu. It's never happened. We've never had a militarized lockdown over the flu. So take that into account when people give you stupid answers when you ask them because you trust them. Doctors, hospitals, whatnot. They're just going to tell you, hey, don't panic. All right? I'm telling you, you have permission to panic. Get your shit in order. Get some food. Get a firearm. Have a plan. Okay? But in the meantime, here's the silver lining. This is the only person I can find who is white, a Caucasian, and has got the virus. He beat the virus, no problem. He said he was sick. He felt like he was about to die, but he came out of it, no problem. Drink hot toddies, he said. This is what it looks like before you get it, and this is what it looks like after you're done. So He looks a little worse for the wear, a little rough, but he did pull through. His name is Connor Reed. He was over there in Wuhan. He was an English teacher. He's a Brit, but this is the only person I can find who is white and who has been reported in the media as having got the virus. Silver lining. Thanks, Connor Reed, for going through it first, showing us that possibly this virus has a racial component to it. All right, now it's about to hit Shanghai. I heard that Shanghai's already got 800 confirmed cases. Now this thing has gotten so far out of control. I'm sure you've already seen the death numbers have been leaked out. I think that from what I read, the first case study of the 42 people from the fish market, there was a 15% death rate, and that was inside of the ICU. So that was under like the highest care at the hospital before the hospitals were overwhelmed. They were given antiviral drugs. It's before the virus mutated. Now we're getting reports that the viral treatment they used with the HIV drugs isn't working. And they're already started construction on another one of these pop-up hospitals. This one's in Shanghai. It's supposed to be done in 20 days. The first two were done in Wuhan, and they were up in 10 days. And I can tell you that a country like China does not build a pop-up hospital in 20 days because they're scared of the flu. This thing is a killer. And that's why the TV doesn't want you to know there's a problem, because they don't want you to freak out. They don't want you to go buy those N95 respirator masks. They want to stockpile it for themselves. Okay, so listen. Shanghai, one of the busiest, most populated cities in the world, is a ghost town right now. This is how terrified they are. Look, this guy's from Wuhan. They stuck him right in a box as soon as he got off the plane. He didn't even get outside. They literally put him in this little mobile quarantine box. Now this smart man with the 3M N95 respirator mask on is starting to see there's some weird things going on in Shanghai, and the city's empty, and everyone is quarantined, and it's starting to look like a movie, and that's where we're at. So almost the entire nation of China is on lockdown, and if they're not under quarantine, they're going to be here shortly in every city of China. They just said that the virus is now airborne in aerosol form, which means it can float in the air indefinitely until you're infected by it. Meanwhile, the CDC says Americans should not wear face masks to prevent the coronavirus. No. Go out and get your flu shot. I guarantee you, if we look through here, it'll say something about getting a flu shot. Meanwhile, hospitals across the nation are stockpiling supplies amid fears that a coronavirus-related mask shortage could endanger healthcare providers. So, if you're a regular American, don't go out and get masks, because that could prevent our healthcare providers from getting the masks themselves. You see where this is going? So that's the CDC telling you don't go buy masks, don't get them, it's not going to help you. Meanwhile, they're stockpiling the crap out of them across the hospitals across the nation. So do what you're going to do. They all say don't panic. They say the flu's worse, they say. Don't wear a face mask, they say. Don't stop eating at your local Chinese restaurant, they say. They say if you're a student on a campus, don't avoid your Chinese student colleagues, they say. Meanwhile, it looks like they're shitting their pants. So take what you want out of it. We're going to move on to some of the scientific material I could find. But first, I want to tell you that when this thing hits Africa, they are double screwed. And I didn't learn this until today, but there's over 1 million Chinese people living in just a few countries in Africa. They're basically trying to colonize it. It's something that wasn't on my radar until I started digging into what's happening now. I wasn't really that interested in China. But I've come across all kinds of stuff that basically says that China's been trying to colonize the rest of the planet now for about 20 years. And previous administrations for the United States was basically letting them, almost enabling them to do it. If you've been following the QAnon story, you're probably well aware of some of that. I'm going to move on, but in a future video, I'll come back and try to double back on that stuff. But for now, let's check out some scientific studies. All right, now it's no mystery to know that Chinese people, for some reason, like eating the weirdest stuff they can find. They like eating anything that moves. If it's alive, they will find a way to consume it and gain its magical powers. Now, the earliest reports on this said that the Wuhan coronavirus came from bats. Now, the bat thing has been studied by DARPA and governments across the world as a disease vector, and they've been studying that for the last 20 years. So that's where a lot of the reports come from, people talking about this as a bioweapon. Now, this one was an article, a scientific paper that was retracted, withdrawn immediately. It was just posted a little while ago, the 30th. This was a week and a half ago, so it was up and then it got pulled. And basically, they found a spike protein that was very similar to the way HIV infects cells embedded in this coronavirus. This was the big study on the Lancet. This is the first one that talks about it. It talks about how the virus works, where it came from, and basically in this paper, they come very close to admitting that there's no way for this virus to have occurred in the wild, that it was most likely created in a lab, which means it's either part of a vaccination research study that got loose, or it was part of a bioweapon. Now, there is a Level 4 bioweapons research facility in Wuhan, just a few miles away from where patient 0 in the initial outbreak occurred at that seafood restaurant. And what came out of this was that the 41 people that were admitted on that first cohort with this confirmed infection, a lot of them were men, some of them had underlying diseases, but only 15% of them died. That's a lot. That's 3 out of 10 died. So 7 out of 10 made it out alive, but those are all treated in the ICU. All 41 admitted, all went to the ICU. So that was interesting stuff. They also figured out that it targeted this thing called the ACE2 receptor. ACE2 receptor. So based on whatever knowledge we have right now, this is the final answer I have. This is the best thing I can come up with. Someone put this together. They looked at several of these genetic variants that seem like they're being targeted by the coronavirus and took into account this ACE2 receptor and came up with a percentage of risk factors. So the two types of human beings most at risk are Japanese and Chinese. And after that, you got Vietnam, Beijing, China, Peru. This was kind of weird. The Peruvians are so close to these. But this is basically the best I can do as far as risk factors, depending on what your biological, ethnic, racial background is. This is going to be unsettling for a lot of people, and I think more settling for others, but these are the high-risk populations. And then it kind of drops lower down here. So where I'm at, I'm somewhere in here, European, so I'm at like probably 50% and below for risk factors. Like I said, there's only one guy that I know that's white that actually did get it, but he beat it. What I thought was weird, though, is Mexicans from LA are up here. They're somewhere between whites and Chinese as far as risk factors go. So, pause it, take a look. This is based on genomic studies. So I don't know if this is real-world proof, but this is the best thing I can do so far. I know a lot of people are really worried. Like I said, I bought a bunch of N95 respirator masks for myself, some goggles, a couple boxes of plastic gloves, or rubber gloves, whole bunch of disinfectant hand sanitizers. I bought rubbing alcohol, a case of it, with a spray bottle to put it in so I can decontaminate myself anytime I come inside or do it on the outside of the porch. I don't know if it's definitely not foolproof, I can tell you that, but I think at this point, you're just going to have to make do with the best you got. The best chance we have is controlling this at the border, shutting down all flights from China. I'm going to leave it here real quick. So it just says that one person who went into a hospital spread it to 57 other people, including 10 people who were healthcare workers. So just one person breathing in a hospital can infect the whole entire building. And if you're still reading the Q board, this popped up a couple days ago, and it says that the department chair of chemistry and chemical biology at Harvard University, a Jewish man named Charles Lieber, was working with biotech scientists from Wuhan. Till next time, this is Bill Smith. Thanks for watching.